are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Abote on Twitter, here to talk to you about the latest in Auburn news as spring practice finally got a date for it. March 25th will be the first day. So 2 weeks from now, Auburn football will be back on the field practicing. And a big question of the spring, who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Auburn Tigers in 2025? The easy assumption is it's Jackson Arnold's job to lose, which, I mean, I fully believe that it is. Jackson Arnold, transfer out of Oklahoma, 5-star plus quarterback who, wanted to play for Auburn. He wanted to play in this RPO scheme. He was the guy who was the big reason why Oklahoma took down Alabama with his ability to run, and it dealt a bad hand at Oklahoma. Wide receivers were diminished, depleted even. Basically practicing with wide receivers 6 through 11 at one point in the year. And, you got him coming in, but also you got another 5-star quarterback in Deuce Knight out of George County. The former Notre Dame commit flipped to Auburn and, of course, became the prince that was promised in a way. The guy who will lead Auburn in the future post the Jackson Arnold era. But without Ashton Daniels, who I from what I've heard, is still not going to be around till summer. When you only got 2 guys competing in spring, do you open up the quarterback battle to be for the starting guy? Of course, easy to assume yet again, it's Arnold's job. Go ahead, let him get those first team reps. But what does Auburn have to gain by letting Deuce Knight get his fair shot? Well, so let's see here. 2 5-star quarterbacks, potential for both guys through the roof. Probably a little higher for Deuce strictly because he has more years of eligibility left. You have more room for growth than you do for Jackson Arnold, who's going into his junior year. And also Deuce Knight, I would probably say more of the passer type than Jackson Arnold is. Jackson more of a dual threat than Deuce is. So it really begs, where do you see these 2 guys at? Both guys have been practicing with the players throughout the spring, at least from the videos I've been seeing on social media. And the team sold on both of them. Hugh Freeze is sold on both guys. And this is the highest rated quarterback class Auburn's ever had in the same locker room with these 2 and Ashton Daniels coming in. But with that, what does Auburn have to gain by playing Deuce Knight early? Well, you get to jumpstart his development. And that's a big plus in a way, but also you could lose a lot by putting a freshman in. We've seen countless times where a freshman quarterback has gone in and just not looked the part, and then it basically halts all development into moving this guy forward, upgrading and developing and upgrading his talents yet again. And sometimes it works. I think UCF last year was a good example of when a freshman quarterback goes in and just balls out. Hank Brown looked the part I guess he was a redshirt freshman, but he looked the part for the New Mexico game. But then the Arkansas game happened. It's things like that. With Jackson Arnold, of course, you get a more polished look at a college quarterback because he has the years of experience. He's played in the Big 12, and he played for 4 games, and he played in the SEC. Lost his job, though. Turnovers were an issue at Jackson Arnold. And, he was dealt a bad hand at Oklahoma. At one point in the year, you were playing with wide receivers 5 through 10, and that was your number 1 offense for a little bit. But with both these guys coming in at the same time, you get a chance for Hugh Freeze to kind of figure out where he wants his offense to go early. Because last year you thought you had an open book to work with, Turns out you had to simplify it down to like a page or two. With two guys who want to play for Hugh Freeze. And Jackson Arnold, I mean, explicitly was like, I want to play for this offense. Leaves plenty of room for the playbook to be completely open. Leaves room for the playbook to be able, being able to flip from page 1 to page 2 of a playbook is something that an Auburn quarterback has not like had the chance to do since I want to say like Jarrett Stidham. I don't think Bo Nix had full like access to the playbook. Peyton Thorne definitely. I mean, he probably did at one point, but after some games in a row of poor play, at some point you got to close the book and just kind of go off the the Waffle House menu. But both these guys are very athletic, and I mean, I said it earlier. The edge, dual threat wise, goes to Jackson Arnold, but with that, I mean, both these guys can run the football very well. Deuce Knight is the taller guy, and is I say he's least likely to run the ball, but whenever he has the ball in his hands, he can make some guys miss and he can make plays happen. Jackson Arnold, though, you've seen it happen at the highest level of the game possible. You watched him take down Alabama with his legs and legs alone. I don't even think he got over 100 yards passing in that game. I don't believe. It was definitely very, very close to being 100, if not just like on the dime. Yeah, 110 yards passing in that game while also rushing for. Oh, wait, correction. Sorry. Here we go. 68 yards passing in that game, ran for 131 yards against Alabama. And that 24-3 blowout win. Cannot overstate that loss enough for Alabama. But I mean, again, it's so easy to look at this season and look at the spring practice coming up and automatically give the job to Jackson Arnold. But I think there's so much more for Auburn to go with here if they give the opportunity to Deuce Knight to battle it out for that number one job. Because you go into this year and you got, outside of Keanu Lambert-Smith's departure, I mean, you could make an argument that the wide receiver core coming in is more talented than the wide receiver core you had last year because you got some of the same guys. You got Cam Coleman. You got Perry Thompson. You got Malcolm Simmons. You got Bryce King coming back. And you lost KLS, but with that, you brought in Eric Singleton. You brought in Horatio Fields. You lost Sam Jackson the fifth. Auburn's wide receiver room, one of the best in the SEC. The tight ends, I mean, you don't know what the tight ends fully look like, but you got some freshman guys who can step in right away. You picked up a transfer, and I mean, you got Rico Walker from last year. Brendan Frazier's back. Offensive line is veteran laden. The offense, and of course the running backs, a stable of running backs, Alvin Henderson. And I don't know how to start with him. Damari Halston, Jeremiah Cobb, all those guys will get an opportunity. Omar Mabson, and blanking on the UConn guy off the top of my head right now. You got all those guys who were able to go in right away and make this offense so much better than last year. And the big question is, of course, who do you start at quarterback? And again, I think the answer still is Jackson Arnold. But I think you have to give an opportunity for Deuce Knight. Strictly because what if Deuce comes out there and just is the best guy on the field? What if Deuce ends up being the worthy of Cam Newton's number? It's like the what if, because I've never been one to sit there and be like, all right, well, the next Cam Newton level player. I don't think anyone should ever say that about anyone ever, because that has never worked out for anybody. Didn't work out for Jeremy Johnson. Did not work out for Joey Gatewood. So on and so forth. Dora Robinson is the UConn running back's name. It just came to me as I pulled it up. But if you give Deuce that chance and he balls out and he starts sliding it up, I mean, you go into your 2025 year and you have a star-studded freshman quarterback who can go out there and start early. And you got your whole future ahead with him. If it didn't work out, Jackson Arnold stayed throughout the summer. If he didn't win the job, I mean, you got a quarterback right behind him who could step in right away and continue to play the playbook you want him to play. He wants to play the RPO. He wants to run this convoluted offense from last year and expects to make it work. So, I think Jackson Arnold gets the job, but I would like it to be closer than expected. I want the battle to go through 8A at the bare minimum. But I by summer, by fall, I want the job to be in hand. But I want March 25th to April 12th, open quarterback battle. You have a favorite who runs with the ones and have another guy that runs with the twos, but I would not be opposed to, first half, let Jackson Arnold run with the ones and Deuce run with the twos, and then second half, let Deuce run with the ones and let Jackson Deuce run with the ones and Jackson run with the twos, or however you can make that work. Make sure you get as plenty of reps as possible across the entire roster. I just want to see how these guys work with the hands they're dealt. And of course, we saw Jackson play last year with a depleted wide receiver roster and depleted Oklahoma offense in general. But besides the point, I want to see an actual quarterback battle, just so I know that there's development being made between both quarterbacks. You have a freshman playing at a high level. You have a former 5-star quarterback who, again, didn't have the best time at Oklahoma. You see him making strides to reaching the potential that every high school analyst said he would have in him. I think it works out the best for Auburn if you get the best versions of these two competing against each other this early in their, and at least in Deuce's career, and at this point in Jackson Arnold's career. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Jackson Arnold or Deuce Knight will be Auburn's starting quarterback in 2025? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Or, even do you think it should be an actual quarterback battle, or should the job just be handed to Jackson Arnold? Let me know what you think. Comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video and to the channel. And also, quick little break. But before we go to the break, I do want to let y'all know in the link in the description below, there is the College Loop Bracket Challenge, where you yourself can win 2 tickets to 8A if you win the College Loop Bracket Challenge. I think right now there's only a few people in there. Do want to get those numbers up. I love parity in my sports, so would appreciate to have as many people as possible. Click the link in the description below. It's also in the March Madness Live app, so check that out. So, quick little break. Outside this break, we got Auburn basketball, both men's and women's, and we're going to talk a little bit about diamond sports before we get out of here. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your College Loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
And of course, it's available on thewarreport.com. Second page, you'll find the College Loop merch, both the hat and the Field Loopy t-shirt. Check that out in the description below. Most comfortable items you can wear in your entire life. Of course, the merch, only one way to support the channel. The best way to support the channel is, of course, by liking, by subscribing, and by commenting and leaving your thoughts on who will be the starting quarterback for Auburn football in 2025 as we get ready for Auburn basketball to get back on the court this Friday. But waiting around till Friday to see Auburn basketball play again, because SEC tournament starts on Wednesday. As Auburn, again, I will say it again, favorable bracket for the Tigers. We won't have a preview show for the games, or do a preview until we know who Auburn will be playing. Of course, up first on Wednesday will be South Carolina and Arkansas at 16 versus 9. It'll be at noon on SEC Network. And the winner of that, again, will go play Ole Miss. So, I mean, if you were to make predictions based on a seed, Arkansas would probably play Ole Miss. Is probably what I would assume there. But yeah, after that, winner of that game will play Auburn. And after what we saw from the Tigers versus Alabama versus Texas A&M, I want to see Auburn win at least a game or two. I probably want to see Auburn make it to the SEC tournament championship, just so I know that strides are being taken to fix what went wrong last week. Auburn got out rebounded in 2 games. Auburn was unable to get defensive rebounds. They were unable to stop a team from getting second chance points. Despite, forcing 15 turnovers with Alabama, they were still unable to get stops at points in that game. They were unable to shut down the Alabama's offense when they needed to. That's not something I want to see going forward as an Auburn fan, as an Auburn podcaster. I don't want to see that going forward because I like whenever I can talk about Auburn basketball throughout all of March and then the early start of April. I like when I can do that. I can't do that if Auburn plays like they did versus Alabama and Texas A&M. The lack of effort was embarrassing. It was the most frustrating week of Auburn basketball I can't say I've ever sat through, but one of the worst ones I've sat through because they're better than that. They're the best team in the country. All this stuff about this team. That they just have everything in front of them and they control their destiny. And you sit there and watch them get manhandled by teams that are better than. It sucks. It sucked to watch, and it would suck if it happened again. To show signs, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of not caring about the SEC tournament, and I've said it before that I don't really care about winning. I don't care about winning at all, but I need Auburn to win the quarterfinals at the bare minimum. If you make it to Tennessee, hopefully you get to see Tennessee. I do not want to see Texas A&M again. If you make it to Tennessee, I would hope Auburn would get that too, just to beat Tennessee. But after that, I mean, you got Florida or Bama more than likely, and I'm not opposed to Florida winning the SEC tournament. I'm not opposed to that whatsoever, getting their revenge from last year. But Auburn's still favored to be the number 1 overall seed from what I've been seeing. They have moved down in the AP poll to number 3. Media has been waiting a while to do that. They've been waiting a while to be able to say Auburn's not the number 1 team anymore. But Auburn's still getting accolades regardless. Starting off with the SEC Player of the Year goes to Johnnie Broome. SEC Coach of the Year, Bruce Pearl. Auburn had had one player get on the first team, of course, that being Johnnie Broome. All SEC third team, the Chad Baker Mazzara, which it's a sham that that Denver Jones or Miles Kelly was not on any of those teams. Absolute joke. Denver Jones did get mentioned on the defensive team. He was on that. And then on the all-freshman team, Tahad Pettiford getting his name called on that. So, yeah, Auburn getting some SEC accolades before the tournament and after winning that regular season title. But, again, favorable draw SEC tournament. We'll have a preview show on Friday come out talking about that game. Hopefully, more than likely, I think against Ole Miss or Arkansas. It'll be one of those two. But I like Auburn in the quarterfinals early. It'd be my pick if I were to make a bracket for this right now. All right. So, yeah. Stoked for that, but I need to see Auburn play like Auburn going forward. Speaking of keeping a basketball around for a second, women's basketball, something I forgot to mention on the live stream. So, paint you a picture. First round SEC tournament and SEC women's tournament. Auburn loses. I won't say it was close. It felt closer than it was to Florida, knocking themselves out in the first round. And 24 hours later, Auburn announces that they have let go Coach Johnnie Harris. I think the firing of Coach J was premature. I don't think it was the right call. I talk about dealt a bad hand for Jackson Arnold. I mean, dude, the injuries piled up on Auburn this past year. This was a women's team that was supposed to be better than last year. This was a women's team that was built to be a team that didn't have to play and win the tournament to have to rely on getting a spot. That team that was built through the portal and through recruiting by Coach J dealt with injuries and dealt with other issues that hindered the season, and it turned out the way it did. With them being in the tournament last year, I would have assumed, and I would have definitely put my money on this, that she would have been safe for at least 2 to 3 more years after that. Not the case. And, a premature move, you end up reaping what you sowed. Talia Scott, transfer from last year from Arkansas, entered the transfer portal today, or yesterday, correction. This past year, I mean, she only played in 3 games, but averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals before she dealt with her wrist injury. That is a massive loss to a team, and it's not even the only one, and it won't even be. I mean, it's first of many. Starting off, Auburn women's basketball had a 5-star player coming in, Nyla Wilson from IMG. And with Coach J getting fired, very rarely nowadays do you get the recruit committing to a school. They commit to the coach who's recruiting him. Nyla Wilson was committed to Coach J, and her commitment has been taken away, and her recruitment is now reopened. Women's hoops back to square one. And if you're going to fire Coach J this early, you're going to have to make one heck of a splash hire to make up for that. It is embarrassing that it came down to firing Coach J that early for a season that, I mean, I don't know how many of those games you could really classify as being outcoached, but outmanned because of some of the players they lost. I think it was stupid. I think it was very, very stupid to do. I wish Coach J the best of luck. I would actually want a championship next year on another team. Definitely going to make some team happy, depending on who grabs her. But yeah, sucky news to have to relay. And then rounding out the show, got some Diamond sports to talk about. Auburn baseball, of course, got their 2-1 victory over Old Dominion this past weekend. Up next, they got UT Martin tonight at 6:00 p.m. CST and Madison, Alabama. I think it should be a manageable win for the Tigers. Of course, they've moved down 3 spots after losing to ODU on Saturday. It's now the 23 ranked Tigers. But the big thing this weekend is, of course, Vanderbilt coming to town. Number 23 versus number 13. Auburn doesn't need to look ahead. Keep the teams in front of you. Of course, this is the Auburn team that has beaten the likes of Baylor and Ohio State and Oregon State, but has lost to the likes of Holy Cross and UAB and now Old Dominion. UT Martin would not be a laughingstock if that's what your resume is looking like. Of course, we'll talk about more about Auburn versus Vanderbilt this weekend. But as we move on, softball finished up their first SEC series of the year this weekend, Saturday through Monday. So the game wrapped up yesterday. Auburn was up 4-0 today. Yesterday, I keep saying today, was up 4-0 yesterday and then lost 4-7. Auburn scored 4 in every single game, but lost 5-4, 9-4, and 7-4. You got embarrassed. You got shown up. Auburn walked into this weekend, and I mean, I picked Auburn to win. I can't get too upset about it, but I can as a fan. Had a very explosive offense going in, and it's got stymied by Mississippi State. Pitching was iffy all weekend. Can't have that going forward. Up next for them is Georgia Tech. They play on Wednesday in Atlanta. You got some things to get right. You got to figure out your pitching rotation. You got to get confidence on the mound. Or in the circle, correction. You got to get confidence there because Auburn's success this year, I mean, you can't have – last year it was like the pitching is good, but the bats aren't ever hot. Now this year you have instances where the bats are really hot, but the circle is inconsistent. You got to find a way to get those two competing at the same level. Same thing like with gymnastics. I mean, they lost to Missouri yesterday. Or not yet. It was Sunday. They lost on Sunday. And talk about that. I mean, they didn't play consistent enough. And that happened to softball. Get up next at Georgia Tech, and then you got A&M this upcoming weekend. Your home opener in SEC play versus the Aggies. But yeah, you got to get right. You got to balance your team. You can't get embarrassed like you did versus Mississippi State. You started off the year so hot, and then you got shut down by Mississippi State. Take the week, take the Georgia Tech game, get right, and get ready for the Aggies this weekend. Best I can say, but as we get ready to end the show here, again, I'm Dylan Larck on Twitter. Check my Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, DYLNLARCK. And also, don't forget to check me out right here at the College Loop Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe. Join the College Loop Bracket Challenge if you want to win 2 tickets to this year's A-Day game. And don't forget, again, like, comment, subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works, all of the College Loop. And of course, audio versions of the show on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Now, with all that being said, thanks for watching some of the College Loop Podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.